this workshop of the Bryan Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this workshop has been duly called and the notice of this workshop has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, we'll have public comment, citizens' comments up first. We have one speaker, Mr. Mike Sutherland. You go ahead, come on up.
You can sit or stand.
You can sit or stand.
Just grab the mic.
Grab the mic.
Grab the mic.
All right. Turn it on. All right. I can read. You hear me?
Yes.
There you go. Okay. I'm Mike Sutherland. I live on Parkway Terrace, about a mile from here. All three of my children, boys, went to the Bryan school system, and we moved here in 1984. And y'all have made a tremendous, unbelievable change since 1984 in the system. I mean, that was before you were on the council. I mean, anyway, but anyway, it's really wonderful what y'all have done, and I appreciate it so much because I was on the city council for 12 years, and the school system is the underpinnings of the city. Without a good school system, you cannot have a good city. And there's some of the leadership in Bryan that have been derogatory about the things that y'all are doing with this bus barn deal, and I apologize for that because there's not many people that have that appreciation. We know that y'all do your homework. You know you take your time to make these decisions. You know you spend money on the appropriate people that can help you make the decisions. And as far as I'm concerned, you need to do it. Don't quit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, this time we will then move down into reports. We have a school boundaries update.
Good afternoon. I'm back with School Boundaries Update and just wanted to give you another update on the progress and where we are in our path to bring you recommendations for school boundaries for the upcoming school year. As you recall, I was here last month and we talked a little bit about the process by which we would get to that moment. But very important were the goals and objectives that we are going to work in accordance with FC Local, which the board reconfirmed and adopted at the last meeting that we were talking about this particular topic, and that we're going to form a school boundaries oversight committee. That committee has begun meeting, and in fact, it's already underway. We have another one coming up in just a couple of weeks, so we're going to give you some updates about that as well. But their same charge is to develop recommendations and to give feedback based on FC Local. So all the things that are in policy are kind of what guides that process. Remember, this is a very collaborative process. There are lots of people at the table when we work on school boundaries because there are so many different perspectives to consider and so many different interconnections that we have to take into consideration when we make these recommendations to you. So our demographer, cooperative strategies helps with the various aspects of the programming of the boundaries. And then the biggest factor are all the stakeholders, the teachers, the parents, the students, the administrators, and all of the community members, because it impacts everyone in the system. All of the stakeholders must have a part in it. So we've already gone through September. All of those items are completed at this point, and we are moving into October. This is a very busy month. Based on the feedback that we've gotten in September, we'll be going to be making some changes and some recommendations for us to go and seek more information and more feedback, and I'll get to that in just a few moments. So the School Boundaries Oversight Committee met for the first time. It's a wonderful group. It has parents, community members, a few campus staff, and a few district staff. They looked at how all of this began. All of this began when the voters passed the 2020 bond and said that we wanted to have another intermediate school. We wanted to drop the enrollment so that it was a scaffolding up of exposure to larger campuses for students. So you're at a smaller elementary, you go to a little bit larger intermediate, a little bit larger middle school, a little bit larger high school. So it scaffolds that educational experience for the students. We also know that a part of that process was we are going to be opening up Sadberry Intermediate on the same site where maintenance and transportation is currently located, which predicated the other bond need, which we already knew was in need of repair and honestly need to be rebuilt. And so all of that's connected together, along with the Rudder High School classroom addition of 14 classrooms, which will more than provide for future programming at that campus. So bond planning actually predicated everything that we're seeing with school boundaries and what's possible and what's required for us to now act on because the voters asked us to do so. So OSSA enrollment gave us projections moving out for the next 10 years. And when we worked with our partner cooperative strategies, they noticed that we have some underutilized campuses and some overutilized campuses. And a part of this process is to look at balancing that capacity with enrollment and also looking at how program utilization, where programs are placed, impacts those decisions as well. So we went to a variety of groups. We went to faith-based partners. We went to parent leadership team, Teacher Advisory Council, the site-based School Boundaries Oversight Committee, district administrators, district leadership team, and they asked us to start taking a look at where programs are. So we asked for feedback. We said, what's important to you? Is it important to you that the attendance boundaries touch each other? Or could you have a section that didn't connect to an attendance boundary? We asked them, well, what about everyone in an elementary school going to the same intermediate school? Or would it be permissible to divide that particular group of students to two separate intermediate schools so they're going to the school closest to them? So we're together, but at intermediate, we may go to different intermediate schools. What are your thoughts on that? And then we also asked them their thoughts on various programs, pre-K, bilingual students, how to serve and where to serve those students. We looked at dual language, we looked at a number of different things, and we need more information. That's really what it comes down to. We need more voices at the table. So that's where we are in the process right now, is continuing to gather feedback and look forward to if we have any differences in where the services for programs are located, how does that impact our school boundaries, because they are very much connected. So the next steps are to keep going and work with cooperative strategies to give cooperative strategies that feedback so they can give us different scenarios and go back and forth with them and the School Boundary Oversight Committee to, again, get to the point where we can put more things up to the community for input and feedback, as well as focus groups. Very important, later this month in October and early November, we will release a survey on possible scenarios, and I want to emphasize these are possible scenarios. They're to get feedback from all of the stakeholders. So the survey will be there, but you'll also have the opportunity to participate in focus groups if you'd like to, where we will all sit together and hear and listen to the explanation and the feedback so we better understand the circumstances so that we can come back to the community and the board with new and revised recommendations based on all that stakeholder input. So that'll be later this month, early next month. But all of that is a process that it goes slowly at first, and then it moves rapidly as we get more people at the table and get more feedback from everyone. So that's where we are today. I'll keep coming back to you for more information, more updates, and more decisions that need to be solidified before we can move forward with actually recommending school boundaries. Are there any questions?
I do have one, and I may
Yes,
have said what it was, and I should probably know this, but contiguous boundaries, what do you mean by that?
So when we talk about contiguous boundaries, is it possible that they all touch? So if an attendance zone is one block, it may wrap and move, but it's all touching. It doesn't hop over and have like a little island of attendance boundary that also goes to that location. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Before we send stuff out to parents, if it's not coming back before the board, I would like it to go in front of the teaching and learning committee.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of the stuff that's going on, we've got a lot of committees that are listed. It doesn't always have to come back to the full board.
All right.
It actually needs to be kind of routed through that teaching and learning committee.
That would be wonderful.
And there are several of us on this committee, which, and Sean can go to both those committees.
Yes.
So y'all ask me or talk to me or.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And next up is Bilingual Migrant Esl update.
afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to present to you an update on the bilingual ESL and migrant education here in Bryan ISD. First and foremost, a fun fact. Did you know that nearly 30% of the students that we serve here in Bryan ISD are identified as English language learners? 30%, nearly 30%. This presentation will provide various programs offered to English language learners or emergent bilingual students, give you information on the TELPAS assessment, provide information on the spring of 2022 TELPAS performance for Bryan ISD, and shine a spotlight on our educator support that we're providing for our classroom teachers. Here in Bryan ISD, we have over 4,521 emergent bilingual students or English learners, in addition, of which 196 are migrant students. We have a transitional early exit program on 12 of our campuses for grades pre-K through 6, in which we serve more than 2,000 students. We offer a two-way dual language program for grades K through 6 on 4 of our proficiency level rating for their English language acquisition. One thing to note is that even at the second grade level, our students will be actually typing in the computer their responses to the writing portion. So we've been working in collaboration with CNI and the teaching and learning team to get students the tools that they need to be successful to show what they know on this test. So we're purchasing, and I appreciate your support on this, purchasing keyboarding without tears for our second grade students as well, in addition to third and fourth grade, so that they can be prepared for the TELPAS exam.
Is TELPAS time?
There is no time. It's untimed. For each language domain, students receive a proficiency level rating of beginning, intermediate, advanced, or advanced high. These scores are used to calculate what they call a composite rating. And basically, for a student to show annual yearly progress, you have to move from one proficiency level to the next. So from 2021 to 2022, if you move from advanced to advanced high, that's a student showing annual yearly progress. Again, more 5 lab data shows us that we are consistently, we've been outperforming the state consistently in advanced and advanced high by having more students performing at those levels, and outperforming the state in intermediate and beginning levels with fewer state students performing on those levels. So in K through 12, typically we have 15% of our students performing at the advanced high level, 40% at the advanced, 35% at intermediate, and 10% at the beginning levels.
What is the 12.2?
Excuse me?
In the 2020 school year, there's a gray area with a 0, and it says 12.2%. What is that?
0. Not tested.
Thank you. 2020.
Yes. Yes. So for the spring of 2022, the TELPAS results, we had over 4,100 students that participated in taking the test. 65% of those students scored at the advanced or advanced high levels, and of those students, 34% showed that one-year progress measure growth. And what we're doing to support our teachers? This is the fun part. This is why I wake up every morning and come to work super, super excited to help the teachers so they can help the students be successful and we can see that growth. Basically, we provide targeted professional development that comes from conversations and classroom visits and walkthroughs, real-time evidence of what's going on, what's working in the classrooms, and where do we need to make those improvements. So we walk the campuses with the instructional teams, and we come back and design activities or professional development for the teachers in the form of collaboratives. We also do on-site trainings for the teachers. We sometimes stay there all day and meet with the teachers every 45 minutes during their planning period. If we can't catch them after school or on a Saturday, the goal is to meet with the teacher and train them and give them the information and the support that they need to be successful with teaching the students in the classrooms. We also will continue and with our Saturday PD trainings. We had one this past Saturday and it was absolutely wonderful. We had about 30 educators come out and participate from 8:30 to 3:30. It was a long day, but it was so worth it. The feedback was exceptional. The high quality. We had a presenter from Silence come out and work with our teachers. Finally, we offer coaching with our instructional coaches that we have in the department to work with the teachers. Any questions?
When an elementary teacher takes on, probably at the first level, a student, do they keep that student, are they the teacher in charge to keep like the bio and everything for that child all the way through elementary, or does it go from one teacher to second grade to third grade? How is the tracking done?
Basically, what the state of Texas does with the Lpac exam, a student will receive a proficiency level rating that year from that teacher, and then the student goes to the next grade level. Say, for example, I think what you're talking about is in kindergarten. That student will go into first grade with a different teacher, but what they do is you're calibrated. So you have to make sure that you know exactly what the rubric looks like and sounds like in order to give a proficiency level rating that's valid and accurate, so that the student will continuously make those years worth of growth, but that each educator is calibrated with the next, so it can have that fluidity and not just one person giving the proficiency level rating each year.
And then what about when they change campuses?
Same thing. It's just like with a STAR assessment. The data is housed, so the teacher has access to see, Ruthie's coming to my classroom as a beginning level. What can I do to help her go to an intermediate level for this coming year? So it's that data that the teacher receives and uses in their classroom instruction to make sure that the student progresses that one proficiency level every year.
So I think people don't realize how much work the bilingual teachers do probably all summer to get ready for those children to study and look at their scores so they know how to get prepared. And we do pay our bilingual teachers a stipend, which of course, is never enough, but please let them know how much we appreciate them, because I know there's so much behind the scenes work to study the level of those students, see what their deficits are. It's just like being in any special service, and you have a caseworker. And so,
along those lines, Dr. Molina, do you want to explain the role of the Lpac when she mentions case manager and about how they meet for our English language learners and essentially serve as case managers?
More part of the work that those teachers do.
Yes, ma'am. The Lpac is basically a committee that's in place to make sure that a student is progressing towards learning the English language, so that they can have equitable access to an on-grade level curriculum. They come together at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, for looking at assessment accommodations for the students, and have consistent conversation. It's a group of people that are invested in the students to make sure that they are progressing and that they're successful learning a second language. So yes, it's very important. It's comparable to an IEP, an ARD committee, but for English language learners, for our emergent bilingual students. So a group of advocates that know the student, can make recommendations, and that can help them, again, be successful in their effort to graduate and go on for post-secondary readiness.
So they're so dedicated, our staff, so thank them so much.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have one question, don't leave yet. I have one comment and then one question that you may or may not be able to answer. So I want to commend you on using the 5 Lab.
Oh, thank you.
It is
We
great.
love 5 Lab. It has really been an eye-opener. The information is readily accessible. It takes the time that you would use to really get in there and dig and dig and dig for the information in other platforms. It's right there, and then you can start with what you really need to put your time and effort into. So, yes, ma'am, thank you.
And we love that you're using it, and we love that we get to see it come back to us as a product that we paid for, that we chose, and that's being utilized. And so my question then is, I appreciate that everybody showed up on Saturday for a 8 to 3:30 or 8:30 to 3:30 training. How are we compensating them for that? Are we giving them some PTO? What are we
Pizza.
doing other than pizza?
Okay. Lunch was on their own. We actually wanted to take into consideration what can we do to compensate a teacher's time and be respectful of their time. So what we did is we offered a $75 Amazon voucher for instructional materials, things that they might need for their classroom. It has to be instructional materials, but that is just to say, come on out and spend some time with us, and this is something that we can give back to you. We can't do, at this point in time, we're not doing stipends, but we did do a $75 Amazon voucher for instructional materials, and it could be something that they see during that training that they want to get and take back to their classroom. So we'll be getting some orders coming in pretty soon, and we'll vet those orders to make sure that they're instructional materials and so forth. But that was one thing that we were able to offer the teachers to let them know how much we appreciate their time for coming out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have a safety and security update.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Board of Trustees, and Ms. Carabine. First, I just want to say how proud I am to work for a district where the board, the superintendent, campus administration, and staff understand the importance of safety. This is evidenced by the things that you have put in place over the years, not because you were required to do it, but because it was the right thing to do. Of course, none of the things that have been put in place would not have happened without the support of our taxpayers who voted for the bond that allowed us to put things like the secure entry vestibules and added fencing around the district. I came from a district that has its own that had its own police force, so I wasn't really sure how that worked when I came to Bryan ISD. So working with a third-party provider, which for us is Bryan Police Department, was something new for me, okay? Any concerns I had about that arrangement were unfounded very, very early on. As I observed their response to campus issues and their open communication, I feel very fortunate we have this partnership with such a professional group of men and women. They have been with us at every step. Week before last, when we had the issues of swatting and a couple of issues, if there was any doubt about their response, if you were there, you saw what their response was. They were it wasn't just our SROs that was there. It was any officer that was in the area had been dispatched to our schools. So we not only get the advantage of having the SROs at the campus, but we get the advantage of having Bryan PD as our partner. In response to the tragic events that happened on May 24th, several mandates were issued by the governor and by TEA. We were required over the summer to do exterior door audits, which simply was going through checking every exterior door in the district to ensure that they were functioning as designed, okay? If there was anything that needed to be corrected, we had that opportunity to correct it at that time. Another requirement issued is that the campuses would have to start doing weekly door sweeps. And that is just going around continuing to make sure that the doors were functioning as they were designed to do so. Now, even though we're required to do them weekly, I have not come across the campus yet that's not doing it daily. Okay, that's how important we are taking that. We have not put that in writing that you must, but they've taken that initiative to do that daily. And so we're able to correct any issues that we see. And the last thing, or the final, one of the last things that they did, that they required all districts to do this semester is to go through an unmanned intruder detection audit. And now that is all 1,026 school districts in the state will go through this audit. And I think what their goal is, from what I've read, is that they're going to be doing at least 75% of the campuses in the state. Okay, so you can kind of do the math, how many campuses that will be. Okay, there's a lot of schools in our state. So the purpose of this audit was to find any weak points and determine how quickly an unarmed, well, in this case, an intruder can get into the building before being stopped. Okay. The audit is not intended to be a gotcha, okay? It's intended to be another set of eyes to help us with our safety measures. Now, we've also, been training our maintenance staff, or even our school nutrition staff. Anybody that goes on campus is involved in safety, okay? And that's something we've really tried to make sure everybody understands, that it's not just me and it's not just those here, but it's every single person on a campus is responsible for student safety. So checking those doors periodically and checking them regularly is exactly what we want to have happen. Our district did receive an audit last week, and one of the entities that we have in the district did receive what they call a finding, okay? Simply means that there was a deficiency that needed to be corrected. So we are required by law to share that information with you without giving out any specific information in open session, okay? So we did receive a finding, and as part of the corrective action that we're required to do is the staff will receive some additional training. I can assure you the deficiency that was found that day has been corrected and was corrected the day of the audit. And so we'll likely be receiving additional audits throughout the semester. That wasn't just a one and done kind of thing. So we'll be having more visits by, this comes from the Texas State Safety and Security Center out of San Marcos, but with the support through the Region Service Center. So we'll be receiving additional audits, and then just as a, continued preventive maintenance, we'll be going through the campuses. We're not waiting on the audit, of course, to ever, come in and tell us there's a problem, because we want to find those things quickly and correct them. So I don't know if anybody has anything to say, Chris?
I would just like to say that as part of supporting the safety and security efforts in the district, that school leadership, we've been collaborating with Bryan PD, they have helped train both at the district leadership meeting as well as our AP PLC. So we're working with them. We're out on the campuses, we're checking doors, we're having conversations with our principals. And I can tell you personally, when I've been on campus and you see I have this badge, I'm being stopped and saying, where's your badge, you know, Mrs. Goodman? And so our people are taking it seriously and we are supporting the efforts. Do y'all have anything? Do y'all have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will move down into items for discussion and/or action. First up is the consent agenda.
I move approval of all the items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Benford, a second by Ms. Waller. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, and we'll move down into the regular agenda, teaching and learning. Consider a purchase over $50,000 for Cardonex.
Donna, before you get started, I wanted to take a minute and just thank you for all your work on the Essential 8 packets and the little bags. Dr. Barr was able to bring us back one of the Essential 8 little goodie bags that you put together, and we like them.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a team effort. It's a team effort. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I'm here to ask for you to again fund the Cardonics. It's a master schedule program that is from Education Advanced, and we have several of the programs that we use from that particular company. This program itself pulls teacher information and inputted students' course requests from our eSchool, and that information is pulled into Cardonics. And once in Cardonics, we're able to manipulate the information. It helps us determine the number of sections that we have. It helps us to best utilize our staff. And most importantly, it helps us with the placement of those courses to try to have the least amount of conflict so students can get in the courses that they're choosing to be in. From the staffing side, not only is it helping us balance our staff and where they are, but the part of the time that it takes. I've part of Bryan High for years and years and years, and when you build that master schedule, it takes hours and hours and hours. And it's a lot of man hours and a lot of money sitting in a room trying to figure out this schedule. Well, this process helps us greatly, greatly condense the amount of time it takes to build that program. We do virtual trainings regularly with Cardonic staff. We, pick up the phone and call, email. We do live chats. They've been incredibly responsive to what we've done. If we say, hey, if you would allow us to write on these tiles, how much easier that would be for us. And they're like, oh, nobody's ever said that. So they make adjustments. Several of the recommendations that we've made are already in place, and more of them are probably going to be. I actually meet with them tomorrow. I'm on their advisory committee for the state of Texas, so I work with them and several other folks that are kind of in the same position at me at campuses across the state, or districts across the state, and we give them input. Like, they'll show us, okay, we want to do this, or we can do this. What do y'all think would be the most beneficial? So they've been very, very attentive to our needs to help build these schedules. But unfortunately, with this type of service and this type of program, it doesn't come cheap. This would be the third year that we would use this. The price has actually gone down a little bit each year. The first year was the most expensive because of the amount of training. And so each year as we train we still have to train new staff, but it's not as extensive as it was previously. So that's what I have. Questions about Cardonics?
So, Donna, you love our district, right?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I've been here a long time.
Okay, so Cardonics is not going to steal you away?
No, ma'am, I don't think so.
Because I could see, to think that I've seen you behind closed doors with the little magnets on the bulletin board trying to do a master schedule. I know how brilliant you are, and I'm sure that Cardonics is thinking, man, she's diamond in the rough, so.
I don't have the, you know me, I struggle a little bit with technology, Ms. Waller, so I stick to the front half of it. I don't think I can do the back half of it.
Okay. But it's neat that they admire you enough to put you on their board.
Thank you.
I move approval of the purchase of the Cardonics Master Schedule Program for the amount of $62,689.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Dwayne and a second by Ms. Binford. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries as moved.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay. The board will now convene in closed session to discuss the following items as allowed by Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.074, .072, .0821, .071, .129, and .076, and .001. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. It is now 12:36.
Don't start yet. Don't start. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on.
Oh, you're gonna have time. Good. Julia. Yeah, I'm gonna go first. You're gonna have the first motion.
I know. I'm a hot mess.
The board reconvened in open session at 2:06. No action was taken in closed session. We have two actions to take, and to introduce the first, on August 4th, the City of Bryan Planning and Zoning Commission denied a timely request from Bryan ISD for rezoning of property for the Halliburton Auxiliary project. On August 17th, a meeting was hosted at the Bryan Administration Building that was attended by three school board meetings, three city council members, city staff, and school staff. It was the district's understanding that this meeting was to create a compromise solution that would be represented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. This compromise created multiple zones on the property that would ensure that if the district chose to sell it in the future, economic development would have enough room and could be utilized for the corner of the property at the intersection and the strip of land that faces Harvey Mitchell Parkway, FM 2818. This proposal was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission on September 15th. This compromise plan was again denied by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is the board's recommendation at this time to focus on exclusively the September 15th compromise proposal for the consideration by the City Council on October 11th.
I move that the board withdraw the district's request for the City Council's consideration of the Planning and Zoning Commissioner's August 4th, 2022 decision concerning the proposed rezoning and proceed with the second proposed rezoning, which was considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission on September 15th, 2022, to be considered by the City Council on October the 11th, 2022.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Binford and a second by Ms. Waller. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as moved. All right, and we have one other motion to make.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent of schools and the school district attorney, and to direct the superintendent and the school district's attorney to proceed as discussed in closed session in the matter concerning threatened litigation regarding a special education student.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Dwayne and a second by Dr. Harlan. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as moved. And if there's no further business, then we are adjourned.
Did you want Mr.
Or-
Buckner to?
Oh,
Oh,
One just minor update, Mr. Buckner, where are we on the work towards temporary plans?
Yeah, so the last meeting, the board directed me to start looking at each department that is being affected with the Halliburton Auxiliary Complex and what their status was. So we are still in process of going through that and visiting with departments and seeing what their status is, whether they can temporarily stay where they are or what. So far, school nutrition, that department, they have informed us that they can remain where they are on a temporary basis, while the others are, it's still being determined on how they can maintain at their current locations. So, and then as we get more information, we'll present it to you.
thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion or business, then we are adjourned.
Thank you.